Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, colleagues. I had a quandary of a time 26 years ago trying to figure out how the Orange County Treasurer tax collector could use massive amounts of leverage and invest in speculative derivative instruments. Of course, what ensued is now history. The County of Orange filed for Chapter 9 bankruptcy and lost almost $1.7 billion from inappropriate investments, and set back the County of Orange dramatically with such massive realized losses. Shortly after this tragic fiscal implosion, I was appointed as the new treasurer tax collector for the County of Orange. And it was 25 years ago today, on March 17th, I was appointed, the chairman's favorite day of the year, March 17th. And so after I became treasurer and served as there for 12 years, I offered numerous bills to clean up and improve sections 53601 and 53635 of the investment code for the state. In fact, our chair of a former supervisor for Sonoma County was able to hire away my chief investment officer, Paul Cocking, to a similar position in his county, and I'm still bitter anyway. Colleagues, those were interesting times. Every bill that dealt with investing taxpayer dollars went under severe scrutiny. These sensitive days are long gone, but the scrutiny should still be in place. The investment field is dynamic, it ebbs and flows, it sees new vehicles and watches others leave the marketplace. It moves, and there are those times when the code should also be modified to assist our treasurers and their oversight bodies. SB 998 provides for small but safe moves. Money market funds are regulated under the Investment Company Act of 1940, particularly under Rule 2A7, which I followed for a dozen years. But it allows 100% of funds to be invested in commercial paper. But state code allows only a maximum of 40% for San Francisco and Los Angeles. Other cities are only allowed to invest 25% of their portfolio in commercial paper. SB 998 would allow cities and special districts managing $100 million or more to also invest up to now just 40%, just like LA and San Francisco. Larger portfolios have more sophisticated credit management tools and resources, and this should not be an issue. But 40% is still less than half of what is provided for in the money market funds in which we personally deposit our cash reserves. So this is still a very safe modification. SB 998 closes a diversification loophole, capping the total holdings from one issuer to 10%. And colleagues, these requests would probably be omnibus bill material or opportunities, but they are requested by the California Municipal Treasurers Association, and I respectfully request an aye vote on Senate Bill 998. And I do have witnesses, Mr. Chair. I believe I have Thomas Metz from Palm Desert on the line.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, Senator Moorlach, and we appreciate the Vice Chair's work on this, and always love working with him. So we do have two individuals as our lead witnesses in support. That's going to be Tom Metz. He's chair of the Legislative Committee for the California Municipal Treasurers Association. And we're also going to hear from John Johnson today on the phone line. He's the Deputy Treasurer from the Office of the Auditor, Controller, Treasurer, Tax Collector in the County of San Bernardino. So, Mr. Moderator, we're looking for a John Johnson and a Tom Metz. We'll start with Tom Metz. Mr. Moderator, do we have both on the phone, or do we need to get them in the queue?
They are both online, and they are both in full interactive mode and are free to speak.
Thank you so much. So we're going to take Mr. Thomas Metz first from the California Municipal Treasurers Association. Mr. Metz, you have 3 minutes. The floor is yours. You are live in committee.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good morning, Chairperson McGuire and members of the Senate Government and Finance Committee. My name is Tom Metz. I'm the Legislative Chair for the California Municipal Treasurers Association. I am here to testify on behalf of CMTA, the bill sponsor. SB 998 will update, clarify, and strengthen the state investment code. It has 4 parts. As Vice Chair Moorlach has said, the first part would raise the commercial paper concentration limit from 25% to 40% for cities and special districts with $100 million or more of investment assets. The intention is to level the playing field by putting large cities and special districts on the same footing as their county peers. Getting to part 2 of the bill, That would correct a flawed single issuer concentration limit for commercial paper and the lack of one for medium-term notes for cities and special districts. The current 10% single issuer concentration limit for commercial paper is flawed because it is calculated based upon an issuer's outstanding commercial paper. The problem is many of the issuers issue between $5 billion to $25 billion of outstanding commercial paper a year. So in my city, I have a $300 million portfolio. If I buy commercial paper from one that issues $10 billion a year, my single issuer limit would be $1 billion, 3 times the size of my entire portfolio. In the case of the medium-term notes, they have higher credit risk than commercial paper due to longer maturities, but there is no single issuer concentration limit. So SB 998 would establish a combined 10% single issuer concentration limit for both commercial paper and medium-term notes for cities and special districts based upon an agency's total investment assets. Part 3 of SB 999 would address dated conflicting language in the government code that effectively precludes Indian tribes as public agencies from participating in public agency investment pools. AB 307, Nasande 2011, recognized California Indian tribes as public agencies and authorized them to enter into joint powers agreements without restriction. Unfortunately, this has been undermined by other joint powers code language that predates AB 307. That language implies that only public agencies that are local agencies may invest in joint powers investment pools. SB 998 would address this with corrective language and would also put a section in the code stating that Indian tribes are allowed to participate or invest in joint powers investment pools subject to the terms and conditions of the joint powers authorities that have organized the pools. Getting to part 4 of SB 998 is the most forward-thinking part of the bill. It strives to anticipate a situation that is without historical precedent in this country, the possible advent of negative interest rates. This could occur either through central bank action or market forces. Currently, $12 trillion of global debt is at negative yields. Europe and Japan have been mired in negative interest rates for years and cannot get out of them. What SB 998 would do is create a limited exception to the code and allow local agencies to buy and hold zero or negative interest accrual U.S. government securities during a prolonged period of negative market interest rates. Now, the preferred strategy of most local agencies in a period of negative interest rates would be to deposit surplus cash into bank, custodial, and trust accounts of systemically important financial institutions, which is fine. But there can be 2 issues with that. Number one, the institutions might not be able to accept large deposits due to capital ratio constraints. The other problem could be that they might pass through negative interest charges to institutional depositors. In other words, if I have $100 million on deposit with Bank of America and the bank decides to impose a special charge of 0.6%, as some of the Danish banks are doing in Europe, that would cost me $600,000 a year in bank charges.
We have about 30 seconds, Mr.
So under those circumstances, zero or negative interest accrual securities might be a better option if they would preserve more principal. That concludes my remarks. For the reasons just stated, CMT urges your vote. I vote on SB 998. I will be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Metz, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your testimony today. Very grateful. We're going to turn it over now to John Johnson. He's chair of the Department Treasurer's Office of the Auditor, Controller, Treasurer, Tax Collector at the County of San Bernardino. Mr. Johnson, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair McGuire and committee members. Good morning. Again, my name is John Johnson, Chief Deputy Treasurer for the County of San Bernardino on behalf of Vincent Mason, Auditor, Controller, Treasurer, Tax Collector, and we are in support of SB 998. I especially want to thank Senator Moorlach for authoring the bill and his leadership in bringing the bill forward. I'm going to be speaking specifically to the negative interest rate proposal and amends to the bill that focus on California Government Code Section 53601 Spot 6. The current language, as Tom mentioned, really puts us in a pickle. The language was added, and very wisely so, in 1996 to prevent the purchase of exotic instruments or derivative type instruments that don't have a normal regular cash flow component. Those instruments, some are specifically named in subdivision A of that section. They have no business in being purchased in a government investment pool, an operating pool. It causes a lot of problems if we start to contemplate what would happen in a negative interest rate scenario. The County of San Bernardino, we manage a $9 billion investment pool. We are AAA rated by Fitch Ratings. We have very strict guidelines in terms of diversification. And we have to not only meet our policy standards and state code standards, but we also have to manage to Fitch's guidelines, which require diversification. If we were to have negative interest rates, we would really have very few options, as Tom mentioned, left if we were not able to buy securities that unfortunately would be trading negative. And one thing to consider if we were truly in a negative interest rate environment, and as I look in my Bloomberg terminal right now, Fed funds opened at 5 basis points this morning. The 5-year U.S. Treasury is trading at 33 basis points. It really doesn't give us a lot of altitude here. And Chairman Powell has said that he doesn't plan to pursue a negative rate strategy. However, in the same sentence, he has said that he would pull out all stops and do whatever is necessary in order to keep the economy afloat and meet their dual mandates. So what this bill wisely does is it allows us to buy U.S. government securities, either issued or backed, in the event and only in the event and during the period of negative interest rates, negative market rates. I simply cannot manage my portfolio without the ability to buy U.S. government securities and maintain a AAA rating. About 55% of my portfolio right now is in U.S. government securities. So that is a very wise addition to the code, and it would correct this problem. So I encourage the passing of the bill and moving forward. However, some food for thought for the committee and the author. Again, we've done a lot of research on what we think might happen if rates were negative in the United States and how we would manage our pools and meet our obligations. We've had numerous discussions and conferences and other committees, as well as with our investment advisory firm and, just our peers across the state in California. And I think it would be welcomed, however, if in addition to U.S. government securities, which would be, again, imperative, we would have to have those as tools to manage our portfolios. But we would also have the other instruments that are enumerated in 53601, such as medium-term notes, commercial paper, which is also in the bill mentioned, as well as bank notes and negotiable CDs. We would need those tools to utilize the credit spread to mitigate the cost of managing in a negative interest rate environment. So with that, I thank you for your consideration, and I'll answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks. Mr. Johnson, appreciate the testimony. We're now going to be moving forward on other individuals who would like to be able to speak in support of the bill. We're going to be going back to the moderator. Mr. Moderator, do we have anyone else in support of SB 998?
Not currently, but we'll re-prompt. If you'd like to voice support from the phone lines, you may press 1, then 0 this time. That's
yes, please. If we could please do one more prompt, we would be very grateful, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, I'm going to go to line number 35. 35. Once again, it's 1, then 0 to put yourself in the queue. Line 35, your line is open.
Good morning, line 35. You're live in committee. First and last name and organization.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. This is Anthony Tannehill with California Special Districts Association. I'd like to not only register my support, but thank the author and the sponsors for working with special districts. This is very timely and very modest and reasonable and responsible. and I'd like to thank you all for considering it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tannehill. We're grateful to have you back. Let's see if there's anyone else in support of the bill.
No one else is queued up at this time, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. Appreciate your work today, sir. We're now going to be turning to those who may be in support in room 4203. If you could please come forward, those in support in room 4203. Hearing and seeing no one stand and or raise their voice, we're now going to be going to our remote hearing room, room 2040. Let's see if there's anyone in support. Hearing and seeing no one, we're now going to be going back to our live lines. We're going to be checking in with the moderator. Mr. Moderator, if you could please queue up any individual who would like to speak in opposition of Senate Bill 998. Mr. Moderator?
Certainly, Chairperson. If you'd like to voice opposition from the phone lines, press 1, then 0 at this time. That's 1, then 0.
We're going to give it a few moments for the moderator to be able to see if there's anyone in opposition to SB 998. We appreciate everyone's patience and working with us today. I want to say a special thank you to the technical team from LDC to Michelina for all of the work from the caucus. We are truly appreciative. Mr. Moderator, let's check in to see if we have anyone who would like to speak in opposition on the telephone line.
There is no one in queue at this time, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator, we're now going to be transitioning to in-person testimony. We're going to see if there is anyone in opposition to SB 998 in room 4203. Hearing and seeing no one, we're now going to be going to our remote hearing room, room 2040. Hearing and seeing no one in room 2040, we're going to bring it back to committee. Mr. Moorlach, I understand you're going to be taking those technical amendments?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you so much. Is there any discussion or debate, or would someone like to be able to advance a motion? We have a motion by Senator Bell, a motion by Senator Bell. This bill has a motion of due pass as amended to the floor. We're going to turn it over to the Vice Chair for any closing comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank Tom Metz, known Mr. Metz for over 20 years as a consummate professional and a serious technician in the municipal investment arena. So it's a real honor to work with him, and want to thank John Johnson from San Bernardino. Have years of wonderful relationships with the county treasurer in that county as well, neighboring county. So great to partner with them. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for your thorough review of the bill. I accept the amendments, but I want to kind of maybe, since I didn't mention in my remarks, this bill does have a component on negative interest rates, which we hope we never see. But it has occurred around the globe in other fixed income markets. And so providing provision for that inside the state code is foresight. It is anticipating. Hopefully we'll never have to utilize it. But if it did occur, we would have to figure out how to do emergency legislation to put it in. So I want to thank this committee for the ability to provide something that I think would be a model for the rest of the nation, and respectfully request an aye vote.
Mr. Vice Chair, and I mean this, you focus on these issues and you really dig into them. You bring your experience to the table, and we appreciate all your hard work, sir. The motion was by Senator Bell. It's a due pass as amended to the floor. Mr. Grinnell, please call the roll.
Senator McGuire?
Aye.
McGuire, aye. Senator Moorlach? Aye. Moorlach, aye. Senator Bell? Aye. Bell, aye. Senator Hertzberg? Senator Hurtado?
Aye.
Hurtado, aye. Senator Nielsen? Aye. Nielsen, aye. Senator Wiener? Aye. Wiener, aye. We have 6 votes.
That currently enjoys a 6-0 vote. Ladies and gentlemen, committee, we're going to keep that bill open to allow the majority leader to add on.